Hey everyone and welcome. Today we'll be talking about the film Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. Fun fact, Miles Morales made his comic book debut in 2011 following, you guessed it, Peter Parker's death. This film came out in 2023 and stars Shameik, Hailee Steinfeld, and Oscar Isaac, and was directed by Joaquim dos Santos, Kemp, and Justin K. Thompson. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. Across the Spider-Verse sees us following Miles Morales again, who is now more acclimated into his role as Spider-Man, but feels a little bit lonely. He finds out that there is a society of spider people and he wants to join so he can have people who understand him. It comes up that someone close to him must be killed, and he is told to not do something about it, which of course Miles won't just stand by and let that happen, so he becomes a target for all of these spider people, while also battling this new mysterious enemy. Across the Spider-Verse is a superhero action film. It has similar vibes to Into the Spider-Verse, Spider-Man No Way Home, or The Amazing Spider-Man. Into the Spider-Verse is by far one of the best Spider-Man movies, but also one of the best comic movies overall. I was nervous going into this film because it had really big shoes to fill, but I must add that they did a fantastic job living up to the expectation of its predecessor. I'm so glad that we get to follow Miles Morales. It's such a refreshing perspective after seeing so many adaptations about Peter Parker. The film did a great job of showing how much he grew up and what changed from the first film to this one. I love how in this film it does a good job of showing Miles's personality and what he enjoys. We see him having a BLM pin on his bag. We see the music taste throughout the film. We know he loves his Jordans, and while he fights, he has a very cocky mindset, which comes to haunt him later on in the movie after making fun of his new nemesis. Shameik does a great job with the voice of Miles and really brings life to this character. With Miles growing more in his Spider-Man role, we also get a new suit. I love how so many people commented on his suit constantly, which is super funny because they asked if he's bleeding from his armpits, but it also made me think about how many suit changes we've seen in superhero films and the lack of acknowledgement from other people in that film. We see towards the middle of the film how Miles wasn't supposed to be Spider-Man, and him becoming Spider-Man is the reason why Peter is dead in his world, and why there is a world without a Spider-Man. I was happy that the film showed us this other world where there is no Spider-Man, and how due to that, Miles' dad is dead, and in this world, Miles is the Prowler. I'm glad that this movie really explores these other universes and spends time there instead of just using them for like a rest stop. The reveal was a good place to end and show how these events from the first film further tie into the events of this one. Gwen, or Spider-Gwen, or Spider-Woman, is voiced by the always amazing Hailee Steinfeld, and I am so happy that she came back in this film. We get a little bit more about her story in this movie, and it's kind of sad to see what happened to her, Peter, and how her dad blames Spider-Woman even though it isn't her fault, and we see it's something that she's constantly battling with. She joins the Spider Society after telling her dad she's Spider-Woman, and he doesn't react like she thought, which was sad, and we see her use that situation to give advice to Miles, but then realize that her relationship with her dad is not the same as Miles' relationships with his parents. I'm glad that we get so much more of her story, and I look forward to her making things right with Miles in the next movie and figuring out a plan against Miguel and the Spot. Miguel and the Spot are good villains to have in this film with very different motives. Miguel is not your ideal villain because he really thinks he is saving the different universes, While Spot is not taken serious as a villain in the beginning of the film, which motivates him to become a even better villain that the Spider Society will have a big problem with in the future. It's interesting to see these two villains who don't want to work together and have very different motives, but is making Miles' life way more complicated than it needs to be. I love to see the Spider People having heartfelt moments with their families. In the film, we see how some things are the same with most of the Spider People, and I think that one of them, too, that wasn't really talked about is having a strong family relationship, which the film focuses on. We see it a lot with Miles and Gwen, but we also see it with Pavitier, Miguel, and Peter B. Parker as well. One of my favorite parts of this movie is Miles' relationship with his own parents, especially his mom, who is trying to understand him more and feels like he's growing up fast and her little boy is slipping away from her. The relationships with the family is something that I think we saw in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans that made me love those movies. And with this film, they have so much of that included as well, which to me makes the story seem so much smaller and not this giant multiversal movie. The voice cast is freaking amazing. I was excited to see Shameik Moore, Hailee Steinfeld, Jake Johnson, Brian Tyree Henry, Mahershala Ali, and Luna Lauren Velez return, but then they went and made the cast even better by adding the likes of Oscar Isaac, Issa Rae, Andy Samberg, Daniel Kaluuya, and Jason Schwartzman, to name a few, which really just added to the film. I think that the film did such a great job with their casting, and the actors really helped elevate the film. The soundtrack for this movie is amazing. It perfectly encompasses where we are, New York, but also Miles's personality as well. Sometimes the music fades into the background in movies, but with this film, it is front and center but doesn't distract from the story, it just elevates it. Animation is such a cool outlet and art form, and I think it's underappreciated. But when I watch this film, I feel like they did a good job of introducing people to different styles of animation. It's cool to see new characters in a specific style, but also to see older animated characters in the style that we remember them in instead of changing them to match Miles' animation style. The different styles aren't only cool to see, but also help to distinguish that these people aren't all from the same universe. I think my favorite part of this movie is the Spider Society. I know that there are different spider people throughout the history of the character, and there are some we've seen in different media, and it was cool to see them represented when Miles visited the Spider Society. It was cool they included clips of Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire's Peters, while also adding the Insomniac Spider-Man, which is pretty popular, as well as the animated Spider-Man from the TV show. One thing I was really shocked to see was Donald Glover as a Prowler, who many may remember that he played Aaron Davis, maybe pre-Prowler in Spider-Man Homecoming, and the character hasn't come up again in any of the films that we've seen in terms of Spider-Man. But in this film, we see him captured, but in his Prowler outfit, which was a bit of a surprise for me. All of the spider people had different ways that they used their webs, and some were even different colors, which was cool to see. Also, even though we don't get to see Tom Holland Spider-Man, who is the current Spider-Man, there is a mention of what Doctor Strange did in No Way Home, so we know that he is out there somewhere in one of these universes. It was really cool to see how many spider people we've been exposed to and how they included so many that would make longtime Spider-Man fans freak out a little bit. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse lives up to its predecessor and gives us a fantastic movie that is bound to go down as one of the better superhero movies. There's a cliffhanger that teases the OG crew's return from Into the Spider-Verse, and I'm excited to see how they wrap all of this up. If you haven't seen Across the Spider-Verse, then I highly suggest that you go and check it out immediately. Thank you for watching my video. I would love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. If you have not subscribed, please do so you can keep up to date with more of my videos. But besides that, everyone stay safe, have fun, and goodbye.